So now I'd like to welcome the OSU team in charge of the Washington Way Improvement Project. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for inviting us to your meeting. My name is Erin Amoth. I'm the project manager for the Washington Way Reconstruction Project. I'm pretty new to OSU. I've been here almost 3 months. And today I decided to invite Rebecca Houghtaling, our senior planner, or one of our senior planners, and Erin Martin, director of communication in the web, so we can talk about Washington Way.
Well, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. The Transportation Action Team has hosted 2 public lectures over this last year. One was about rethinking streets to protect and prioritize people walking and biking, and then one about protected intersections. And through those and other things, we've just become keenly aware at how essential modern multimodal street design is to keeping people safe, encouraging more people to walk and ride. And in those talks, they highlighted Dutch designs, street designs. And as we all know, they're coming close to those Vision Zero goals, and they've experienced a massive shift to transportation mode to biking and walking. And when we saw your project design, it was like, this is that Dutch design. This is that very high standard. And so we're just very excited to hear about your project and the design principles behind it and how it fits in with the OSU vision. So thank you again for coming, and take it away.
All right. We got a little presentation we're going to walk through.
You want to share your screen?
This is what happens when you're presenting from not your own computer. So there we go.
All right.
There we go. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay. So I think this project was kind of conceived in 2012, if I remember correctly. And so I actually have had almost zero to do with any of the design or how it got to where it is today. Give a lot of credit to our planners and our campus vision for kind of laying the foundation for what we want to see. But as you can see, our current Washington Way is narrow and dark and has no bike lanes. It's pretty substandard street, quite frankly. And there's a lot of improvements we can take. We're going to move the road. Probably the main impetus for this project is to get the road out of the railroad right away. So we're going to do a huge effort to move it 10 feet to the north. But while we do that, we're going to change out all the infrastructure below the road, water line, city water line, and all our storm and sewer that cross through there, so we don't have to deal with it anymore. And then we're going to build the street to like you see there. We'll have pedestrian lighting improvements along both sides of Washington Way for the multimodal path to the south, and then the new 10-foot sidewalk on the north. It's going to be next to our 12-foot 2-lane cycle track, which will be the first in Corvallis. And our hopes is that by building these improvements, we're going to encourage more multimodal transportation through this corridor, and that this will maybe be the start of a larger network in the future. Yeah, next slide. So this was the second phase of potentially 3-phase project. The first phase was completed with a collaborative project with the city and Oregon State in 2014. The city managed that project with the thought that this would be coming shortly behind it. But the railroad literally delayed us about 3+ years working through their process for access and improvements. We're actually still waiting to get some construction and access agreements from them. So, but we're a few weeks away. So phase 3, I'm not sure when if that'll even happen in my lifetime, but it's out there. It's on a plan.
Multiple plans.
Next slide. And this just gives you kind of a current snapshot of our timeline for the project. Pacific Power is getting ready to start their work to relocate some big power vaults that are at the intersection of 26th and Washington Way that need to be moved for our new road. And then we'll start installing the city's new 20-inch water line in September, assuming our materials get here when they're supposed to. That'll take about 3 months. And then we're going to switch over to railroad improvements at the intersections and along the railroad corridor. And then starting December this year, we should actually get to road reconstruction, and we'll go 35th to 30th for a few months, and then 30th to 26th for a few months, and then finally 26th to 17th. And we'll ultimately wrap up about the end of December with striping and landscape plantings and punch list items. And that's kind of a high ceiling overview of our project for Washington Way. And maybe Becca can talk about some of our campus vision.
So the Washington Way project, as Erin indicated, started back 2020 or 2012 originally, and then it went through a redesign in 2014, 2016. And at that time, OSU was also in the process of developing our transportation plan and also getting started on a vision for campus. And so subsequent or concurrent with the development of Washington Way, we've also developed a overall comprehensive plan for future transportation on campus that's supportive of OSU's strategic plan 4.0 and our vision for campus, which is really focused on prioritizing pedestrians, bicyclists, transit, and then looking at the vehicles, because we do recognize that some people have to get to campus in lots of different ways. So we're trying to look at it holistically. As Erin indicated, Washington Way is the first of hopefully multiple cycle tracks. This one going east-west through campus, but we also have some north-south corridors as well. And as I said, we have a long-range transportation plan for campus. We have gone through and indicated or classified all of our major corridors, whether they're vehicle corridors, bike corridors, ped corridors, or multimodal corridors. And so we use that as we're going through and redeveloping campus. The neat thing that we were doing is, as OSU was developing our transportation plan, the city was developing their transportation system plan. And so there's a lot of connections between the two documents. This is the long-term bike network, and you can see we really focused on some access routes. These are the ones that will connect with the city's major corridors for bikes, as well as connecting routes, which are interior routes for campus. And as I said, we were developing our transportation plan concurrent with the city. And as you probably all know, the city has a real focus on establishing the low-stress bike network across the city. And it's one of the key ways of getting people throughout the city of Corvallis. And we also recognize there are many people who may be coming to campus who might not feel comfortable biking on some of the major collectors and arterials. So we're looking for ways to connect with the city's low-stress network. We recognize these are two pages out of the city's transportation system plan, both the bicycle projects and the low stress network projects. And I just wanted to highlight that because the one on the left again is the low stress network. And we recognize that there's kind of a big gap in the city's system where OSU is. And so we are looking for ways that we can fill that gap through some of the projects on OSU streets and OSU properties. So we're currently looking at some opportunities along Benton Place and 17th Street. So I'll turn it back over to Erin.
I just wanted to let you guys know, we have a webpage dedicated to this project, probably because it's been so long anticipated. But you can find the web link there, and we'll be updating that website throughout the project with any significant changes to schedules or I guess that's probably the only thing that will be impacted. Schedules at this point, design's kind of set. So, and if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer. Yes, please. And that's kind of a architectural rendering, a little different view of what we may see out there. That's kind of like 30th and Washington Way, where you have the cycle track and the bed 10-foot sidewalk. So we're really excited. This is going to be a big improvement for that corridor. Does anybody have any questions?
I've got a question. I noticed that the cycle path is going to extend east of 15th Street. And I'm just wondering what the timing for that will be.
East of 15th Street. Let me go back. So the project, yeah, this one here. Oh, sorry, it's not my mouse. Don't use someone else's computer. Do you want to talk about? So phase 3 is a project that is in the city's transportation system plan. It's the 3rd phase of Washington Way extension. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the number in the city's TSP, but it's not planned. It's not on the capital forecast for OSU. So it would be with future development and redevelopment in that section of campus. So no date set.
Go ahead, Wendy.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the presentation. I heard about this years ago at the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Board and was excited about it then. So it's great to see it happening. I'm curious if there's a way for the public to get a hold of those nifty maps you put up about the OSU's master plan for the bicycling and the pedestrian routes across campus, because I think that would be a great reference. I'd love to have those documents just accessible to stare at and enjoy.
That's great. Yes, we actually have a website for our transportation plan. I don't remember the URL off the top of my head, but I will be happy to email it to Steve, and maybe Steve, you can share it with the group. Thank you.
I have a quick question. So cycle tracks are a little more expensive than paint. And so I'm wondering how you all decided to go with a separated cycle track rather than what so many other cities do, which is like a painted bike lane or maybe even a buffered, but paint. How did you all make that decision?
I can answer that. So back when this started, as Erin indicated, the real driver for this was we needed to upgrade Washington Way between 35th and 15th Street. It is a collector in the city's transportation system plan, but it is an OSU collector, so it's a little bit different. We looked at all of our options, and one of the things that was a huge consideration for the university was really looking at the volumes of pedestrians and bicyclists on campus. We have a lot more people bicycling and walking on campus than probably anywhere else in the city, and recognizing safety for all of our users. And sometimes it's people coming to campus for the first time. And we were wanting to make sure that we're providing options. A lot of people don't feel comfortable biking in the roadway. And so even having a buffered bike lane didn't make sense for us in some locations. If you think about this corridor, it's pretty much our major east-west vehicular corridor. So recognizing the need for true separation from for bicyclists. Some people may feel really comfortable riding in the roadway. Others are just not going to. So we wanted to provide multiple options. I think that's pretty much.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's go,
Laura.
Laura, Dennis, Lisa, and Rob.
My question is about the section that is on your map listed as completed between 15th and 17th, which doesn't currently have a cycle track, and the intersection of 15th and Washington Way is a bit problematic right now. Are there going to be improvements there?
Yes.
Daisy.
Yeah, so we're actually, it was pretty creative what the design team came up with. There's going to be bike boxes on 15th Street, both, and actually on Washington Way, just to the east of the light as well. So there will be improvements. And while we're not going to be having an official cycle track, like the same way you're going to see on Benton Hillary, I'm going to go back to another drawing, if you will. So see how right now the cycle track is separated by the landscape strip. When you get over to this section, the cycle track will actually be more like a buffered bike lane in that section, but it will be separated from the drive lane. I believe it has the breakaway bollards on it. And then the signalization and the timing is actually going to be redone at 15th Street to allow for bikes movement coming north on 15th. You can, if you really feel comfortable, you could get in the left-hand turn and turn onto the cycle track. But you could also be in the bike lane headed north on 15th, and there will be a bike box on the northeast corner where you can turn, and then you can head west on the cycle track. So yeah, we really worked closely with city staff to make sure that those improvements would be designed appropriately and work for that interface between the city and the university systems.
Good, because that's, you know, most people coming from Southtown into campus area, that's an intersection they have to go through.
Yeah, and we also did similar improvements if you're coming on 35th Street.
Go ahead, Dennis.
What is the surface of the bike track made of?
It's asphalt, just orange.
It won't actually be orange. We only show orange because green is a little bit problematic when you work at OSU.
Is it possible to get the specs changed to porous?
Did you say chorus?
Porous. In other words, pervious. It's called pervious surfaces.
Oh.
For example, the parking lot at the city.
Right. That'd probably be a good use for porous asphalt since we wouldn't have turning movements of heavy vehicles. But yeah, I'm not sure at this point if that's something we could entertain. I can inquire.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. I'm excited about this, of course. Rebecca and I are longtime colleagues and have collaborated on all kinds of things. And she made a mention to the city's transportation system plan, kind of having this gap, and then OSU. And I guess what I want to say to the group is we, not just with Rebecca, but with some of her other colleagues at OSU, I have been coordinating and am coordinating and have for a long time on how to kind of line up what the city's low stress network has been envisioned as with what the campus is also envisioning, so that we can get people, because we know that the campus is not an island, people need to get to and from campus. And so I guess I'm just sort of promoting, you know, to folks who might not know that we talk to each other all the time and check in on how, you know, when we're doing projects like this, this is a big project, but even much smaller projects, we really do collaborate and try to bring something that joins town and gown together in a transportation frame.
And I just want to say, Lisa, I didn't make this slide for you, but, and I realize there is an omission here, but to Lisa's point, right now, Erin, Lisa, and I are all working on at least 3 projects together that are going to be coming. They're all ped bike focused and their opportunities. One is a mobility hub at Jefferson, and it was actually funded by the COG. So it's more interjurisdictional than just even the city and OSU.
Excuse me, it's actually funded by the new statewide transit money, but the COG is managing it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. And then we are going to be working on some pedestrian and bike improvements at 35th and Campus Way, and then hopefully some pedestrian improvements, crossing improvements at Monroe and Kings. And then I omitted the 11th Street Bikeway, which is horrible omission on my part because it's not showing here, but that's coming. And then additionally, their OSU is working on some other infrastructure gaps.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, 11th Street Bikeway is exactly what I wanted to ask about, because I notice here in the OSU map, it doesn't quite align at 11th and Washington. I'm just curious what the vision is there. I guess maybe the follow-up is if we hear it's going to be coming, Southside might be coming the next year, if there's some temporary quick build that can be done to match up with Washington until the future of phase 3 happens.
That one I think we'll have to work through. I think the 11th Street actually goes further south. I mean, obviously there's connections along Washington Ave that we probably should look at. I'm not sure if there's bike lanes on Washington Ave and connecting with 15th, but that's a good point, Rob.
Yeah, there are not bike lanes on Washington. It is considered a collector street. It's kind of a weird, it's not what you think of as your typical collector street. The part that's east of,
right,
east of here. But I guess I'm not certain, I'm fumbling because I'm not actually certain what the question is. We do have plans to build the 11th Street neighborhood bikeway all the way to its fullest extent down to E in the not so distant future. So
that's what I mean. That little section that was in blue in these maps, which may, I guess, happen in the long future. Just that short section connecting 11th Street to this part of Washington that will be done is my question for a quick build, maybe.
I'm not sure it could be done through a quick build, but I definitely think that there are multiple connections from 11th Street into campus that are low stress networks. And so whether this is the right location or not, I mean, there's definitely, the great thing is there's different options coming in. Along Campus Way is pretty low stress. Then there's work that we're going to be doing there, and then Jefferson too, so.
I had a question about the perception of safety for people walking and biking. Slowing down cars and then having safe, protected intersections are two key things. So I'm wondering how on Washington Way you're going to handle that, like keeping cars actually not drag racing down that straightaway, and then what kind of design principles are in the intersections to try to prioritize the students and staff crossing the street?
I know the lanes are going to be kind of kept specifically narrow in an attempt to kind of make drivers a little uncomfortable with the width of the road as a traffic calming measure. And then besides the lighting, race crossings will help. And then there's going to be a ton of marking, thermoplastic markings out there that'll really catch people's eyes, drivers' eyes, and the lighting too. I think pedestrians should be a lot safer, a lot more visible, and a lot more anticipated.
I noticed you haven't joined the World Bollard Association. I don't know if you follow that Twitter account.
No.
Okay. Yeah, it just shows all the different way bollards are beautiful and protect people on the street, but I'm sorry, that was just a little joke. Go ahead, Dave, and then Dennis.
Okay, I noticed that the plan is going to impact the armory and the parking just south of the athletic fields. And I'm wondering if that could turn into a snag.
Well, I would say no. The armory is unfortunately no more. It is already gone. So we did go through, as a state owned property, we have to go through a judicious process to demolish resources on our property. So we followed all that. If you're interested in the really cool history of the Navy ROTC Armory, there's probably a link on the OSU website. I know there's a link on the OSU website that tells all of the history of that really neat structure, but it was demolished in the summer of 2020. So it is no longer with us. And the parking will also be no longer with us after this project next summer.
Go ahead, Dennis.
I don't see any benches, seating benches along there. I noticed that in some of the OSU infrastructure, they've put little spots where people can sit. Are there any plans for that?
I think there are benches. It may just not be showing up in the rendering. I know there's benches along the section at 15th, between 15th and Benton Place that will be installed with the Arts and Education Complex. And I know that there were some space constraints throughout the corridor. You can imagine putting in a facility this size and having to shift it 10 feet to the north. There were definite trade-offs. So we'd have to go back and look at the plans, but I do know there's at least benches at the Arts and Education Complex.
Thanks. I think we're getting up towards the time. If you don't mind, if I ask one last question. I'm so happy to hear that this is going to be part of a network. I mean, from everything we've learned over the past couple of years, it seems like projects like that, like this, will really benefit from being connected to other things. So I'm wondering about the pace of change and how fast that network will be built, and just what's your long-term goal for getting all of this done and having a connected, convenient network?
Well, I'll take a stab at it and I'll let Erin jump in. So the projects that you see on this map are projects that are all either currently permitted, in design, or on our capital forecast. And by being on our capital forecast, that means that we are looking to get, so it's in a 10-year horizon. So some of them may seem a little bit farther out, but they're definitely planned projects, which is pretty exciting. Lisa can attest to how long some of these projects have taken to get going. So I definitely foresee some significant improvements. I'm really excited about the mobility hub. I think that's going to be a wonderful change. Washington Way. And then we're currently in, we have an application to vacate 17th, 16th Street and A Avenue. So the section that you see here, we actually have a steam line that's failing. It's actually a city street. And we have an application into City Council, which will be going to public hearing on May 16th, where we're going to be requesting that the city vacate that, which means give back the right of way to the university. And if that is a successful project, we'll be able to repair a steam line, and we'll also be able to start another section of this, which the long-term goal, as you'll see in our transportation plan, is to have a low stress network all the way from Western up to Monroe through the Benton Place corridor. And this one's going to be in design here within the next year. And then all the way up to ultimately to Monroe Avenue. So it's going to take a little time, but I'd say over the next 4 to 5 years, you're going to see quite a bit of change. I don't know, anything else? Jefferson?
Yeah, Jefferson, we're going to do some restriping this summer. It's kind of a weird confluence between Waldo Place and Benton Place. We have no vehicles that are going eastbound, and we have loading trucks and vehicles and bikes all heading westbound. And so we're going to try to restripe and restrict traffic flow to make that much safer for the bicyclers that are using that stretch.
All right. Thank you all so much for coming to our meeting and presenting this. This is just wonderful. I think this project is really going to raise awareness about what a truly safe multimodal design is. Like, raise the standard. So it's just such a great example for our city and other cities too. So thank you so much for sharing it, and thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
All right. And I imagine you all want to get back to work, so we'll let you go.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Thanks.